It's time for Becoming Gift with Andrew Reinhart. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Pat, Dave, and Ron. How are you?
You are a gift, by the way. You're
Yeah,
so
indeed.
fabulous.
Well, thank you so much. Well, we're going to return to our regularly scheduled programming right now. We spent the last month reflecting on pilgrimage specifically, but before that, we're doing a series where we're talking about these big levers for health and what are the things we can do that will sort of make the biggest difference in our lives. And last we talked about fasting, if you remember, 5 weeks ago, anyone in the audience.
Yeah,
So
right.
the lever of nourishment, we can throttle it, we can eat less, or we can eat more. And so today I want to talk about eating. How do we eat for wellness and for holiness? You know, food is a basic need of human nature. And if you think all the way back to our most ancient ancestors, they needed to eat, and that was a big question on how they sorted out their life. There's always a question when you look at civilization, that there's a trade-off oftentimes between security and freedom. Even in our society, think of, the laws that were enacted after 9/11, right? People were willing to give up freedom for more security. And this dynamic goes all the way back to the most ancient humans when, the earliest city-states were formed and, people got food, they got bread, but they also became slaves. We see this, of course, with the chosen people when they went down to Egypt. Right, they got food, but they became slaves. So there's always this trade-off between security and freedom. In the scripture, food comes up all the time, all the way back to Adam and Eve. The original commandment was about what not to eat. And then, going up to Noah, of course, God updates the rules, and they're allowed to start eating meat at that point. The Jewish purity laws are full of different precepts about how to eat and when to eat and what to eat. And then, of course, we have Peter's great vision, where these animals come down on the sheet, and God says, eat. I think this might be my favorite scripture quote. Every time I'm having a little bit of pulled pork or something, I thank God for Peter getting that vision. And then, of course, the first council of the church, they talked about circumcision, but the other big rule was, how can we eat as Christians? So this food is sort of throughout the scripture all over the place. You might think it's the stock and the soup of the scripture, not to bend the analogy too much. So I think one of the beautiful reflections I've had on the Eucharist is, well, what's the Lord saying in the Eucharist is that you will be fed, but you will not be slaves. What the Eucharist says to human nature is you will be fed, but you will not be slaves. And how does God do that? Well, he makes us his children, right? We're in the royal family. So he establishes a kingdom, but he doesn't enslave us. And the Eucharist is a great message to our human nature that he will take care of us, but will not enslave us. So many people today, as religion has waned, they cling on to other things and make them religious. And I think the so-called diet wars in our society are one of the ways that people become religious. And, you can't but help when you go online and look at, self-help or diet stuff, you'll find stuff, just between vegan and carnivore and keto and paleo and, all these different diet approaches people have. And the arguments become, frankly, quite religious. But I want to propose today is that there's a few kind of universal principles I think that we can apply that transcend diet ideology. Meaning whether you want to be vegan or you want to be carnivore, whether you want to be keto or you want to be paleo or you want to do the DASH diet or the Mediterranean diet, right? There's some principles we can apply that simply you could use them regardless of what your approach is. The first rule I want to propose is add before subtracting. I got this from Chase Krause of HyperoFit. I just published a great book called God of Endurance with Sophia Institute Press on fitness and holiness. And so this idea of adding before subtracting, there's studies with rodents. What they do is they give them more protein. And what they find is there's a relationship. The more protein they give the rats, the less calories they eat. The less protein they give the rats, the more calories they eat. And the idea is that our biology is actually looking for a certain amount of amino acids, amount of proteins, and you'll stay hungry until you hit that basic level, right? Because our body's using protein to rebuild all of the structures, all of our muscles, all of our tendons, our skin even. So all this stuff that our body needs, our body's sort of scavenging for protein. So this is one good approach. Add more protein to your diet, regardless of your approach. And oftentimes people will just spontaneously eat less calories when they start intentionally adding more protein. The second thing is focus on whole foods. And this is easy. Either eat a food that doesn't have a label, Because if it doesn't have a label, it's because it has one ingredient, so you don't need help identifying what it
there
is.
you go.
Or only eat foods where you can understand the names of everything on the label. So either foods that aren't processed or minimally processed. And if you do these two things, if you up the amount of protein that you're eating, one, and then two, you primarily eat whole foods, like 80 to 90% of your diet on whole foods, your body will pretty regularly regulate itself. All right, then if we are going to take things out, limit sugar, grain, and oil. Sugar, grain, and oil, right? These are sort of the building blocks of processed foods, but they're also super calorie dense. What that means is for the amount of sort of nutrients you get, there's a ton of energy, right? So these are foods that will tend to, incentivize overeating and potentially gaining weight. So those are the three principles I want to propose that could be applied in any diet. Up your protein intake, focus on eating whole, minimally processed foods, and then limit your sugar, grain, and oil.
It
sounds so easy.
I know.
Yeah, right.
Easy to say, not to do.
How long does it take to kind of, because processed foods taste so
yeah,
good.
right.
I mean, potato chips and all that kind of stuff. So how long does it take for a body to kind of quit craving that kind of stuff? Is it,
Yeah, cravings are tricky because it's a psychological phenomenon, and we're talking about biological principles. So cravings oftentimes come up as a matter of stress or a matter of sort of triggers or memories or situations we're in. So the question might say, like, how long does the body biologically take to shift? It might be a few weeks that your body gets used to eating something different, or over months and months of diet, your taste buds might change, where you our body adapts to what we're eating to change our flavor preferences. So you can actually force yourself to eat something you don't like enough, and eventually you might start to like it, because the body learns that it's something good for you. But how long does it take the cravings to go away? They might never go away.
Right.
And because there might be something different happening. The body always wants the calories. Our default setting biologically is to survive, and the best way to survive is to have fat on your body. Right, because there's so much in our history.
I'm built for survival, baby.
That's right.
you are, Dave. Oh, boy.
There's so much
I'm right
scarcity.
beside you, buddy. Yeah.
There's so much scarcity in the history of our species that we're just so wired to have extra energy on our body.
Yeah. You learn by experience, and I will say this, and I've learned by experience. I took the top 10 diets, and I tried them all at once, and I gained weight. I was like doing all 10 of them. No, it doesn't work that way.
Andrew, how do you answer people that talk about saints that only lived on the Eucharist?
Yeah, I think we're all called to a different expression of asceticism in our life. So health isn't an absolute value, and we can always give up the natural for the supernatural, right? So there's certain callings that particular people receive in their vocation, sort of a vocation within a vocation, sometimes to a more extreme form of life that anticipates the life to come. I would also propose the idea of a hermit, right? Certain monks become hermits, and it's a vocation within a vocation, and it's a supernatural calling, meaning it doesn't make sense biologically for someone not to hang out with other people. It's very contrary to our human nature.
Wow.
But some people receive a supernatural calling within their vocation.
Great
stuff.
explanation. Thank
Andrew Reinhart, Becoming Gift.